Welcome to the Southern Steward Podcast, where we explore stewardship through the lens of our faith and the great outdoors. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Southern Steward Podcast. This is episode 4, and I'm Kyle White with my co-host Will Blunt. Will, doing all right?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. So tonight we're going to have a friend of ours, Sammy Phelps, on, and we'll be talking about his summer internship with the U.S. Forestry Service in the Rockies of Montana and Idaho. And Will's got a devotion for us, and real excited about that. But first off, Will, you over your jet lag yet?
I really think I just got over it about a day or two ago. Going over there was not so bad. We traveled for like 26 straight hours going over. And then, so we slept, but we got over there, like when we finally got settled into the hotel, it was like 8 or 9 o'clock local time in Japan at night. And so we went straight to sleep, of course, because I slept like 30 minutes of the 26 hours of travel. So we went straight to sleep, and, the next day you woke up and you were kind of like, I feel a little off. And then day 2, it was a little bit better, wasn't quite so bad. And then day 3, you kind of felt normal. And so the rest of the time we felt normal, but now coming back, it was less travel because we were just a direct flight from Tokyo to Atlanta, and it's like a 12-hour flight because you got the wind behind you coming back. But, I was like up at 3 in the morning, Tuesday morning, just kind of like, all right. So I'm not sleepy, so.
Tell them the time travel piece of that.
Oh yeah, so we left Tokyo on Friday night at 8 p.m. and we landed in Atlanta on Friday night at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
You gained 2 hours back on your day.
We time traveled 2 hours in the past. And then when we crossed over into Alabama, we gained another hour.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Did y'all drove back, or did you fly into Mobile?
Well, no, we flew into it. We was in Atlanta. We parked at a hotel there, like to park and fly or whatever. And Luke was at our son. He was at his grandparents in Eufaula. Oh, it's like 2.5 hours from the airport in Atlanta. So we drove there and crashed there.
That's nuts. Yeah, on Monday night here. Monday night would have been the night before the election. Monday night I text Will, and he was getting lunch on Tuesday. Yeah. And I asked him if he knew who was president yet. So it was Tuesday at lunchtime where Will was, but it was Monday night here. It's a wild thing. But anyway, glad you made it back safe, and I guess y'all enjoyed Japan.
Yeah, man, it's the culture over there is a lot different. It's everything's very clean. They are like, when it comes to being sanitary, they have it in mind. There's the bathrooms, every bathroom is the motion sensor stuff. A lot of them don't have paper towels, which is kind of aggravating because I don't feel like the air really does the job.
Yeah. They got bidets over there.
Oh yeah. Every toilet over there has got a bidet. Yeah.
That's something to get used to. Sure.
Hey, that was one airport, one of the local airports we went to. They wasn't in the men's room, but the ladies said there was one of the toilets that's on the floor, like you've seen it like in China. Yeah, like it's just a hole in the floor, right, in the ladies' room. So
that's wild.
I don't think I could use one of those. I wouldn't be able to get back up.
Different culture for sure.
Ain't no doubt about that.
For sure. Yep. And you said the service industry over there is it's second to none.
It is, man. It's like it don't matter if it's the person holding the door at the hotel or the taxi driver. Everybody's super nice, super respectful, patient, gonna do what they can to help you. It was, like I said, it was a different experience.
Refreshing.
It really was. I was like, man, I wish it was like this at home, to be honest with you. And we saw one piece of trash on the ground the entire trip. We took a picture of it. Like it was that special on that occasion. Yeah.
Wow.
One piece of trash on the ground. but very few garbage cans, like public garbage cans.
They just all towed it with them.
Apparently, they take it home. Most of them. It was really aggravating for me.
You know, and that's so different from the picture you have in your mind of like these people packed into these big cities and just being, think about like big cities in America are just completely nasty.
Oh yeah,
everywhere. And here they are, the most highly populated city in the world, and it's the cleanest also.
Oh, it's clean, yeah. It's very clean. It's just a different culture and different mindset. I mean, like, there's people like not jaywalking, right? Okay,
yeah.
Here, like, there's jaywalking. Everybody jaywalks, right? I don't, most of the time, but there people do it, right? Well, over there, like, it would be a bunch of people just waiting at the light. Don't matter about traffic. Nobody's going until that light turns green. When that light turns green, it's a mass, a bunch of people crossing, but yeah, nobody jaywalks or nothing. I wonder if it's like there's no crime over there hardly either. And I think the punishment for crime is so harsh that like ain't nobody.
They just stand up, man.
It ain't worth jaywalking to. I don't know what the punishment would be. Getting beat with a bamboo or something. I imagine it's not good.
We need a little bit of that. Just a little bit of that over here.
I mean, it works. Yeah, apparently.
Maybe Trump needs to take a visit over there. Anyway, no, I think that's a good place to stay while we're here. While we're here, getting into your devotional, it's kind of centered around that. So why don't you go ahead and bring it to us?
Yeah. So we flew into Tokyo. Like I said, we had 26 hours of travel initially going there. We left Atlanta at like 10 in the morning on Friday, and we get to Tokyo at like 2:00 in the afternoon on Saturday. And then we had to take a flight from Tokyo to Nagasaki. So we had to, go get our luggage and go through customs and all that, and then come back into the domestic part of the airport for a flight from Tokyo to Nagasaki. Well, we get on the flight, and there's like a kid. He's already sat down when I get there. He's like in his early 20s. He's probably 20, 21 years old. And like, I mean, you don't know. You can't just look at somebody over there and know what nationality they are, because, I mean, there's people from, like, unless I talked over there, nobody would know if I was from Australia or Europe. They don't automatically know I'm American. Yeah. And so, like, you never know, like, unless they're Japanese. If they're not Japanese, you don't really know what they are. So I kind of sat down by this guy, and all of a sudden, speak to him, and he speaks perfect English. Like, okay, you're American, And so I get to talking to the kid, and he was over there with a group of guys. It's young guys, the guys that I saw him with, but they're from a non-denominational church in Utah. When he first said Utah, I thought maybe Mormons, but it wasn't. But they were there to plant a church. And one of the things that he said is that Japan was 1% Christian, which I didn't know. I'm like, I guess I'd never really, thought about, I wonder what percentage Japan is. I've never like thought about that statistic or looked it up, took time to look it up or anything, but that was kind of interesting to me. But I talked to the guy the rest of the flight, and he was a really nice guy, and kind of wished him luck on our way apart from there. But so anyway, so I had that conversation, and then we get in Nagasaki, and the first day was kind of a recovery day for everybody. We walked around and went to some places, but day 2, we saw from our hotel up at the top of the mountain, there's like an observatory, and we kind of look it up and realized there's a restaurant up there. So we're like, let's go eat at the restaurant one night, And so we it was like a cable car all the way up there. And like I said, it's the top of like so just to give you a picture of Japan, it looks like everything is crowded on top of each other, and it is. The reason for that is the terrain is so rocky and steep that when you find something relatively flat, you build on it. So everybody lives on the flat part, basically. That's why Tokyo is so huge, is because Tokyo is the largest flat part. But Nagasaki basically is a valley tucked in between two big mountain ranges.
Okay.
And so we're going to the top of one of these mountain ranges. And like I said, we took a cable car ride up there, and that was pretty fun. Most of it was not very far down, but then there was one part where we come over and we were 2 or 3 times higher than the trees, That was that's pretty cool. Hopefully this cable car, and it was my initial thought when I saw the cable car from a really long way was man, I hope that's not like the cable cars I'm thinking in my head, that's old and rusty and creaking when it goes, But we got there and they were brand new looking cable cars. They were in great shape, so I felt good about it. But anyway, we go up to the top of the mountain, and we got there at sunset just for the views. And it's I think I saw a thing that said maybe the number 3 most beautiful view in Japan, online. But I got up there, and honestly, it's maybe the most breathtaking view I've ever seen, looking out over there. Because you've got, like I said, we're on top of one mountain range, and we're looking out into the harbor, and it extends off, and you can see out into the Pacific, and you can see a whole nother part of Japan, across, I guess, what's technically, I don't know if it's a harbor or the Pacific, but kind of another peninsula that kind of sticks out of Japan. And like I say, it's just I'll post a picture when we post the podcast. I'll post a picture of the view, but it's just a breathtaking view, And that's kind of on one side. And then when you turn, you look out over the city of Nagasaki. And once the sun kind of goes down, you can kind of see all the lights light up, and it kind of helps to shine a light on just how many people it is down there. And it's not a huge area. And like many of you probably know, that's where the second atomic bomb, I think it was called the Fat Man. That's where it was dropped in Nagasaki. And I think it's had a 4-kilometer radius, which took out pretty much all of Nagasaki. So, like I said, the landmass of Nagasaki is not huge, but there's 392,000 people that live there. But as I was kind of looking out over the horizon and looking out over the city at night, I don't know about you, but, when I'm looking out over creation or over just a breathtaking sight, you just kind of having some deep thoughts, And so I kind of got to thinking, and I was remembered my conversation with that kid. I was so out of these people, all these 392,000 people I'm looking over right now, 1% are Christian, which means 99% of these people are going to hell. And so it's kind of a sobering fact. That's a lot of people. I mean, 1% of 392,000, do the math in my head real quick, but I think that's around 389,000 people, going to hell.
Yeah.
So, that's just kind of a staggering moment there that, I didn't really plan on having, but it kind of, like I said, the thought kind of kept in, and, I thought about the Great Commission at that point, Matthew 28:19, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. It says all nations, so, we're not called just to be for the people of the U.S. knowing Christ, and if nobody else knows him, whatever, it's all nations. And so as Christians, we're responsible for that 99% in Japan as well. We're responsible of outreaching to Japan or wherever it may be. And Japan's not the only country. That's just the example for tonight. But, I'm glad that those guys are going to do that and plant that church, because it's needed. It's much needed. I think the main religions I think there's two main religions over there, and it's Buddhism, and I think it's called Shinto. Apparently, it's a faith that's kind of based around nature, so to speak. But that's the two main religions. So, evangelism's needed over there, and sure, all of us, aren't called to be missionaries that go and stay places, but we can help internationally with our giving.
Yep. That's why Lottie Moon and the IMDb and all that is our support to that is crucial to what they're doing. Obviously not all of us are called to be missionaries overseas, but I think we at least do share some responsibility of supporting those things based on our faith. Anyway.
And those are special people that are able to be missionaries. I mean, it takes a special person to just kind of uproot you and your family and go to a country that, maybe you've never been to, or certainly you're out of place, and just kind of plop down there in the midst of everybody and, try to, and the language barrier, man, would be difficult too. Not quite so much in like Tokyo. The bigger city, the closer we got to Tokyo, the more English people spoke. But Nagasaki's like on the southern end of, Japan's a big island. The southern tip essentially is Nagasaki, and Tokyo's up toward the northern half. But yeah, the closer we got up there, the more English. But in Nagasaki, there was, not nearly as much English, so it was difficult to communicate.
Yeah.
A lot of times. And so, yeah, I got all the respect in the world for like some missionaries and all that.
Yeah, I think Chad and Bridget Knight, who are missionaries from our church, they talked about how much time they spent learning just culture and learning not only how to speak the language, but how to speak it appropriately, so you could say, you can say things, but if you don't say it in the right context or the right way or whatever in their culture, that you come off offensive or whatever. Just think about that. Like not only, learning to speak Japanese, which would be, people are listening to us. Obviously, it would be hard enough for you and I to speak.
I got 4 words now. I'm pretty fluent. So,
does Nagasaki count?
Well, maybe a 5 if I can get Nagasaki. If I can get places, I can add a few.
But much less learning the language, but then learning how to speak it. More so than just knowing what the words are. But yeah, I think I said also, I want to correct this. I said IMDb a minute ago. It's just IMB. IMDb is a different thing. Somebody might have been cracking up at that. I just want to catch that. I think.
Yeah. That's what movie database?
Yeah. Anyway, it's IMB, International Mission Board.
Well, I said MRI earlier instead of MRE. So.
Yeah, but you weren't on the microphone. I did hear that, but you weren't at the mic. Anyway,
I said it and I didn't want to interrupt after that. I was like,
but anyway, I think it's, there's more that goes on. Missionaries don't sign up to go when people are called to missions. They don't know where they're going. They don't know. They don't. I don't think they get to pick. Necessarily. It's God calls them to a place, and they don't. And I would say 9 times out of 10, it's not somebody that knows the culture, or knows the language, or anything like that. That's what, they have to have training and support and all that. And that's where you and I and anybody else who's not called to mission comes in. And I think that's a huge responsibility for us to take up. And, people can say what they want to about the church clanging for money or whatever. But I mean, if you have faith, if you're a Christian, then it should be on your heart. Yeah. This great commission to live out. One, it's not 1% Christianity here in South Alabama, but it's still a significant number. They're not Christians, know. And me and you talked about that the other night. The problem here is there's a lot of people that consider themselves Christians that are not. It's that cultural Christian that has it kind of mixed up, and so we got our own mission field here to be a part of. Even if we're not called overseas or to a different country, we got our own mission field, and man, it's imperative. It's not the great, what is it called? It's not the great proposal or the great. Help me out. What's the word I'm looking for? Suggestion. Yeah, it's not the great suggestion that we go and make disciples to all nations. It's the Great Commission. That means it's laid out black and white for us. This is what we need to go do.
Sure.
And I think that needs to be on every believer's heart because it was important to Jesus. Important that it was one of the last things he said before he ascended to heaven. In Acts, he mentions that to go again. And he said that, and so it's one of the last things he said to us before he left. So probably ought to be pretty close on the forefront of our mind.
Yep. Well, and you can use your different. We all have different skills and talents, and I mean, I guess nothing can. You could do a mission trip over there for a week or two. I know we do them to. I don't know about you, Sarah, in particular. I'm sure they probably do at times, but most of the mission trips seem to go to like Central America or something like that. It seems like. But my great grandfather was a carpenter, and he went every year to Honduras, and he built churches down there for years and years, and he's passed away now. Probably. I guess it's been like 20 years. Wow, that's kind of crazy to think about now. But about 20 years ago, he passed away. But a year or two ago, they actually built a church and named it after him down there in Honduras because all the churches he had built over the years.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Bay Sarah used to send a group to Mexico every year, and I've been several times with that trip. But then they got just kind of too risky to keep going down there. And the missionary group that we went to retired, so we don't actually have any connections in that town anymore. But I don't know if Bay Sarah's got Japan budget, but
I was thinking
maybe something we pray for.
Yeah,
start praying for it. No, that's good though. I appreciate you bringing that up, and it is something that needs to be on our mind. It's something that needs to be on our heart. It's again. It wasn't a suggestion. It's called the Great Commission because it's a commandment from Jesus to us. So,
that's right.
Yep, I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
All right, so tonight we got Sammy Phelps with us. Sammy was a part of our college ministry here at Bay Sarah and got to know him in his years at University of Mobile as a student and became good friends with him. And Sammy had a real interesting summer he's going to tell us about. He spent his summer over in the Rockies of Montana and Idaho, so we're going to get his take on it and get to hear a few of his stories. So, Sammy, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
We're doing well. Sammy is currently at his home. Sammy, tell us where you're from.
I am from Franklinton, Louisiana.
Louisiana is a long way from Montana.
Yeah, a very long way. About 2,300 miles.
2,300 miles. Did your mama figure that up?
Yes, she did actually.
As the crow flies, or is that road miles?
That's road miles.
Well, Sammy, tell us a little bit about yourself, and before we get into the trail stories, anyway, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, like you said, I was a student at the University of Mobile. I spent 3 years there. That's where, of course, I met you. I graduated with a degree in marine biology, and then went to Montana for the summer. Spent my summer on a trail cruise out there. And now that I'm back home, I'm going back to school. I'll be starting at Louisiana Tech in December, and I'll be pursuing a second undergraduate degree in forestry with a concentration in wildlife habitat management.
That's awesome. So I guess the focus of our story, maybe one day we can do another one again when you're doing habitat stuff. That'll be cool. But the focus today, obviously, is your summer internship. Talk to us about the application process and finding the job and all of that.
So everybody kind of laughs at me when I tell them that, I just found a job on the internet, which is 100% true, because I was scrolling through a website looking for outdoor work to do over the summer, and my mom found this one. Actually, we were both looking, and I applied for it, and I got the interview after I sent my resume whatnot in. And after the interview, I got an email back, probably 2 weeks later, saying that we weren't going to move forward in my application process. Which was okay, whatever, that works. I'll look for another one. I applied to several others throughout the country, and then never heard back from any other ones. But I think the last weekend in February, I got a phone call from the guy that did my interview. And I'm like, what is this about? And someone had to back out of their commitment to the program, and apparently I was next in line. So I got a second chance, and I took it.
So what are the qualifications? Like, in your eyes, why do you think you didn't get any hits right off the bat?
It was, the way I understood it was kind of a first come, first serve.
Okay.
So whoever applied sooner, whether they had all the qualifications or not, because most of us didn't have any experience doing this work.
Right.
So it was more along the lines of, if they thought you would be a good fit, they would send you the hiring paperwork. So it was kind of along those lines.
Did you?
And I think there were over 90 applicants for it, and only 16 places.
So how many people did they hire for y'all were rotating, y'all kind of had rotating crews, right?
Yeah, we had rotating crews that would vary between 3 of us to maybe 5 of us at a time. But total, I think we ended up with 15.
Okay, we may be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves before we get to the crews and what y'all did. But so looking back on it now, knowing what you know now, did the job description originally posted on the U.S. Forestry Service, did it live up? I can't remember. I remember talking to you about it and like getting ready to go and all that stuff. But what you had on your mind about what you were going to do, did it match what you did?
It did. But I personally was not ready for the physicality of it. I mean, obviously, yeah, Louisiana's really flat. So is Alabama.
Right.
And I was not prepared to climb mountains for 3 months.
Got to be part mountain goat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I guess like when you read manual tool trail maintenance or something like that, you're toting in a pickaxe or toting in a axe or rakes or whatever. We had all kinds. Yeah, it doesn't sound too bad on paper, but then actually putting all that on your back and hauling it around for 10 miles a day or something like that, that's pretty tough.
Yeah, an axe isn't heavy when you pick it up, but when you carry it for 5 hours, it gets heavy.
Yep. You became married to that axe, I would imagine, by the end of it. But all right, so you get the call in February, and you left out in May, right?
I left out May the 9th, I believe. I graduated on the 4th and left 3 days later, maybe 4 days later.
Yeah, with between graduation and trying to soak up your last year at University of Mobile and preparing for that, there was, would you say, minimal physical preparedness for?
Yeah, it was very minimal. Very minimal.
That's good.
Minimal at best.
Yep. All right, so the day you leave, May 9th, you fly into Missoula.
Oh, we drove.
Oh, drove it. Oh, that's right. All right, so tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, the Midwest, we went straight north out of Louisiana. So we went up to South Dakota, then all the way over across Montana to Missoula. The Midwest is exactly what you see on TV and movies and whatnot. Nothing but corn. And the real beauty, in my opinion, starts on the western end of South Dakota when you hit the Black Hills.
Yeah.
That was probably one of my favorite sites on the drive.
And so I guess prior to this, what you got any experience out there at all?
I've been to Yellowstone.
Okay.
And Jackson, like Grand Teton.
Yeah. Well,
I've done the touristy things, but I've never seen it.
Okay. So you get there, and I guess you're introduced to some folks with the Forestry Service, and we'll just fast forward to Mom and Dad dropping you off. Pick us up there.
So when they dropped me off, I dropped them off at the airport as they flew back.
Okay.
And so for the first time in my life, I was like actually alone across the country from anyone that I knew, which was kind of intimidating at first. But as the first day went on, I was like, it's kind of nice just being just me out here. I don't have anything to worry about but myself. No other responsibilities except, meet the people that I'm about to be working with and living with for the next 3 months.
You don't know how real that is yet. You don't have a family. You're still young and don't have a family. You'll look back on that for a long time, and maybe not ever be able to replicate that either. I don't think. But
yeah, it was definitely almost, I don't want to say a reality check, but it was definitely something, like you said, that I'll look back on and reflect on for sure.
All right, so Forestry Service put you up. They got cabins, or were you responsible for lodging while you were not on the trail?
We had a group campsite in Missoula. We were just outside of Missoula, but we stayed in our tent the whole time we were up there for all 3 months.
Oh, so even when you weren't out, you were still camping.
Right.
Oh man, I didn't know that.
Wow.
Dang.
So how many applicants?
Yeah, there was a lot of
people wanted to do that.
There was a lot of
over 90.
Were you aware of that before you got out there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was aware.
So you got your sleeping system and all honed in pretty quick.
Yeah. So I started out just using my backpacking tent, my little lightweight 2-person, and then I got tired of taking it up and down every time we had to go out. So I eventually just ate a little bit of money and got a 4-person tent and put a cot in it.
Oh, for your base camp when you got back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Base camp.
Yeah, I got you. And you didn't have to worry about anybody messing with it while you were gone for a week, I guess.
No, I didn't really have much in it other than some clothes. So
yeah, that's wild. That was you were kind of homeless for the summer too. I didn't know. I didn't realize that. I thought, yeah. I thought maybe you were staying in like a Forestry Service cabin or something. But I mean, I guess the campground had showers and stuff too.
Yeah, they had showers and bathrooms and all.
Okay, well, it's a good way to save money if you're not.
Yeah, I mean, it was free. So.
Right. Yeah.
The company provided it. So.
Mid-bath in the river, you have to run from a grizzly or something, kind of bad.
All right. So did you go through some training, or did they just hand you the tools and send you off?
Yeah, we had a 2-week training process. The first week was all in classroom type of things. We did first aid, CPR, that kind of stuff, like some team building, leadership days. And then the second week, we went to the Northern Rockies Wilderness Skills Institute, which is at the Powell Ranger Station in Idaho. And we spent the week there. That's where we learned how to cross-cut, use the axe, and that sort of thing.
And most of this time, was it for all Frank Church, or were you elsewhere?
Did what?
Did you spend all your time in Frank Church Wilderness, or was it somewhere else?
I had 6 hitches total, and 4 of the 6 were in the Frank Church.
Okay. What was the other?
The Selway Bitterroot.
Selway Bitterroot. I got Frank Church pulled up here. If people don't know what the Frank Church Wilderness is, it is pretty renowned in the first place, but it says, Google anyway, says it's 2,366,827 acres of foot traffic only wilderness area. There's no roads, no infrastructure whatsoever, just maybe some logging roads for emergency crews or whatever, but I guess they wouldn't be logging roads, but you know what I mean. It's all 100% foot traffic. And,
foot and horse, which I mean,
okay,
foot
yeah,
too.
right, yeah. And so you weren't allowed, or they did not even introduce the idea of power tools, whether.
Yeah, that was not an option.
Right. Yeah.
It's actually against the law.
Right.
To use
designated
mechanized tools.
Right. Designated wilderness areas are just what they say. They're a sanctuary.
What about battery powered? Could you use a battery powered?
No mechanical, nothing.
Yeah, no mechanical anything.
I figured it'd be gasoline because of the emissions or something.
If you open the door to battery tools, then you open the door to e-bikes.
Right. Yeah, we couldn't even use a wheelbarrow.
Really?
A wheelbarrow?
Yeah, no wheels.
That's pretty
wheels
wild.
Considered mechanized.
Oh, how about that?
That's interesting.
So yeah, I think that's, people you could be both sides of the wilderness thing. So one, it's wilderness to preserve the integrity or to preserve the natural state of what it is, but also it's cut off from management type activities too. It kind of is a double-edged sword there. It's that's 2 million acres that never gets its natural disturbance processes either, but that's not what we're talking about, so we're not going to go there. I'm sure your habitat stuff, you'll come back to that one day. But nonetheless, it's like I said, Frank Church, and I'm gonna off your head what Selway is acre wise.
I want to say it was 1.2 maybe.
They could give me 1,000 acres and they'd never know it was gone.
Right. Okay. You're pretty close. So Google says that Selway Bitterroot Wilderness is 1,340,460 acres of preserved wilderness. Again, no mechanical or anyway, no motorized anything, period. So, just really the point I'm getting to here is like super remote. And what Sammy has been contracted, I guess, or what Sammy's job was trail maintenance. So you would take these hand tools, whatever, axe, hoe, rake, crosscut saws for down tree, like dead trees, dead falls and stuff like that. And just work your way. Did they have stuff flagged out ahead of y'all that they knew were problems, or did you just pick a trail and worked on whatever you came to?
A lot of them had been worked on in previous years. So we kind of had an idea of, hey, we need a lot of cross cuts on this one because there's going to be a lot of trees. Or, this one's going to need a lot of Pulaskis and shovels to redo the actual tread of the trail. It really just depended on where we were and what trail it was. What our workload consisted of.
Did they have y'all doing like preventative maintenance stuff? Like if you had a big deadfall by the trail, you just walk right past it, or were you taking that stuff down too? Or like not a deadfall, but a big dead tree or something?
I think we only had to cut down one dead tree. None of the seasonal interns,
right,
or fellows as we were called, were certified with the crosscut.
Okay.
But some of the crew leaders were, so they would have the Forest Service partner that we had with us they would cut down on one. But personally, I never got to cut down a tree.
So what kind of is it? Is it more like a dense forest, or is it a lot of prairie? What's kind of the habitat for as far as vegetation?
The Frank and the Selway are both, even though they border each other, they're extremely different. The Frank is a lot of high desert climate. It's really dry, hardly ever rains. There's sagebrush, rattlesnake. If you think of rattlesnake habitat, you would be thinking of the Frank. And I say the Frank, but that means the Frank Church.
Right.
But and the Selway is, I want to say it's actually considered a rainforest.
Oh, wow.
It's known for how much rain.
Are they like other sides of the range from each other, or like what's the proximity of them? I know. So Frank Church is Montana, and Selway is going to be Idaho. Is that right?
They're both in Idaho.
Oh, okay.
But the Selway is further north.
Okay.
But I don't know why that makes so much of a difference. They're literally polar opposite.
So they had y'all 7 days out. So you'd put everything on your back for 7 days, and I would assume hike a loop of some sort, or was it out and back, or I guess maybe it would differ.
It would depend on the trail. Most of it was out and back, just because we would only be going further into wilderness, and there was no way to do a pickup or whatever.
Did they have like a certain mileage you were trying to hit on every hitch?
Not for each hitch specifically. It just depended on the trail. Some of them were. I think my first one was a 7-mile trail, and we spent the whole week on that one. And then
just
my last
7 miles.
Yeah,
you spent
7 miles for the first one.
You spent a week on 7 miles. That's a lot of labor. That's labor intensive right there.
Yes, very. As Forest Service partners, we got the less desirable trails.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
So
you got the stuff they couldn't pay people to do.
Right. Which is fine. I had no problem with that. But
yeah.
It was some of it was just, it wasn't always fun work.
All right, I got a couple more preliminary things, and then I'm gonna let you tell your stories. So when you started out on your first hitch, did you ever weigh your pack to begin with?
I never weighed it to begin with, but I had a pretty good guess. And before tools, my guess would be between 60 and 65 pounds.
That's a load.
Yeah, and Sammy weighs. Sammy weighs 160 pounds, soaking wet. What do you weigh, Sammy? Is that
right now? I'm sitting at 155.
Yeah.
So a third of your body weight.
60 pounds looks a lot different for me than it does a 6'4" man. No.
Well, I know the limit at the airport was 50 pounds on our bags, and I had to heave that up on the scale when we checked our bags. So can't imagine carrying that dang suitcase everywhere.
Watching me put my backpack on was not pretty.
I can imagine the crew leaders or whatever, just what they had to go through every summer when people like you come in, they're just like, hey. So, all right.
Honestly, I thought we did a really good job of catching on fast. I mean, you kind of have to, especially the getting in shape side of it. But
do y'all have anybody that just I can't do this?
No, we had nobody nobody voluntarily just quit.
Wow.
One girl did end up with a stress fracture in her, I think, fibia, one of the two. And she had to end her season early because of that. But
so what's it like if you get hurt out there? Like, is that I mean, there's an ambulance can't come get you or anything. So did they allow, I guess, ATVs at that point or something?
No, they won't bring ATVs in. The only thing that, to my knowledge, that's allowed is a helicopter, like a life flight type deal.
Right.
So, I mean, that's why we did so much first aid the first week, is because when you're out there, there's literally no one else. And we're so remote that even if you have a GPS location, it's still going to take a while for a rescue crew to find you, much less get to you.
Right.
But thankfully, we didn't have any serious injuries.
I'm very surprised that nobody tapped out. That's a tough, about, I can imagine the first week, the first hitch, I guess you'd say, going out and then coming back pretty miserable and broke down and blisters and everything. You hadn't quite got everything settled in. So pack's rubbing you, your boots are, in your case, blowing out, but I don't know, maybe just knowing that it's a temporary thing. But even through all that, when you get back from your hitch, then you're just sleeping in a tent again for another week. There's no
right.
creature comforts. There's nothing to encourage you to keep going, really.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it was definitely tough. Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, there were days where I wished I was doing anything but that.
Well, I'm proud of you for doing it, man. I always, from the moment I heard it was a possibility, I kept telling Sammy, I was like, dude, you better just go do it. I want to live vicariously through you, because I missed my opportunity, and my mind was not thinking when I was your age about stuff like that. So I'm proud of you for doing it, and I'm glad you did, because that's prayerfully your career takes you to some cool places, but I don't know, you may not ever get to do anything like that again. So I'm glad you went and did it.
I appreciate it.
Yep. So go ahead. I mean, I'm sure I'll come up with some other stuff to hit on about, what you ate and how much stuff you threw away before you got done and all that. But let's hear some of your favorite stories, your favorite moments out on the trail.
I'll go through what I ate, because I don't think I'll ever voluntarily eat most of that again. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Mountain House.
Yep.
The dry frozen prepackaged food.
Just dehydrated, freeze dried.
Yeah. Okay. Just boil water, pour it in there, ready to eat.
Yep.
I did those for every dinner. Of course, I would have a different meal every time. Right. My favorite was probably the spaghetti, honestly.
Chili Mac, man. Chili Mac ain't bad.
Yeah, that's just not something that I wanted to eat way out there. But I believe you. I might would try it next. But for my lunches, every single day, I had 2 tortillas with peanut butter and honey.
Yeah.
Every day. And then a packet of tuna. And I will not eat peanut butter for a very long time.
That's not much. That's not much fuel either. That's not a whole lot of fuel.
Well, it's not a lot of fuel, but it's a lot of calories per serving.
Okay.
And it's a lot of calories for how much it weighs too.
Okay. Is that something you learned, or did you learn it out there, or is that something you thought about before you went?
That's something I learned kind of on the go. I mean, peanut butter and jelly would be great, but jelly's going to go bad.
Yeah. You could get like some packets from McDonald's or something.
you get some honey? No, honey don't really.
He said he had honey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then breakfast, most of the time. Well, I started out half the summer. I would do oatmeal every morning, and every once in a while I'd get a wild hair and bring some blueberries for the first couple of days to put in it. But oatmeal, along with peanut butter, gets old after a while. And towards the end, I think second to last time out, I just started completely foregoing breakfast. I didn't have as much fuel throughout the day that I probably needed, but it saved me a lot of weight and a lot of time in the morning.
Yeah.
So it was a win-lose situation. You gain one thing, lose another. So.
You didn't do instant coffee with no coffee,
I
just get up and go.
I have never been a coffee drinker.
Mm. You're missing out, man. You're missing out.
Wait till he has a child.
Yeah.
That'll change. I didn't until I had a kid. I didn't drink coffee at all, so I was forced into it.
Now, what would you do without it?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Right.
I just die, I guess.
All
I'm
right.
sure I'll get to that point.
So tell us some cool stories. What's some of the coolest things you encountered while you're out?
So on my first hitch, we got flown in by a bush plane, which, I said that no mechanized machinery, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this airstrip and whatnot was so old that it was grandfathered into the wilderness area. So it was like the airstrip and flying people in and out in that area has been around longer than the wilderness area has.
Okay.
So we got lucky and got to fly into our first one, which the bush plane ride was incredible. We're, sitting at maybe 10,000 feet, flying right between peaks and over the river valley and all that kind of stuff.
That is cool.
But on that hitch, like you said, my boots blew out. I went 6 days in the mountains in my Crocs.
So your boots blew out on the first day?
Yes. We got there, we hiked. We hiked in, we set up camp. The next day, the first day of work.
Right.
Not technically the first day. But
Yeah, okay.
first day of work, I was part of, we split it into 3 groups. 3 people went all the way to the end of the trail, which was 7 miles. They had a 14-mile day, which on an unmaintained trail is tough.
Yeah.
So we sent our strongest hikers all the way down and come back with a scouting report. And me and 2 others kind of trailed behind with the cross cuts and axes to cut the bigger trees. And then we had a 3rd group that was doing some like brushing and small detail-oriented stuff. But I think 2.5 miles into our day, and my foot started to feel funny when I was stepping, and I looked down, and my whole entire sole of my shoe was completely gone. And I had been walking like that for a while, and I didn't realize it. So I just kept going with one good shoe and one falling apart shoe. And when we turned around to head back to camp for the day, I kicked a rock in the trail with my good shoe, and the whole front half of the sole folded under.
Oh, that's a terrible
And
feeling.
I was like, well, I don't really know what to do now.
I mean, you're out there. You got dropped off.
Right.
That dude
Yeah.
ain't coming back
Yeah,
for
we got
7 days.
We got flown in. There
Yeah.
was no
Yeah.
there was no option for me to, hey, let me just, it's only day 1, let me go run to town and grab another pair of boots.
Yeah.
So I kind of sucked it up with the boots for the rest of that day. And then I spent my entire dinner time into almost dark, I'd say. And I tried to duct tape them back together because I didn't want to have to do it in my Crocs, but the duct tape wasn't functioning well enough to make a repair worth it. So I ended up just going in my Crocs. Had no blisters though, which was pleasant. Yeah.
It could
Put
be
them
a,
babies,
Crocs
put them
could be a
babies in
Crocs
4-wheel
ad.
drive.
It could be an ad for Crocs.
I didn't even have them in 4-wheel drive.
Oh yeah,
I
just
had
went straight
them
slip on.
in the slip-on mode. But
Definitely
on that trail we had to cross a creek. I want to say 8 times every day. So I was in and out of my Crocs
Yeah,
on the first day, and I knew I would be okay. The only thing that really stressed me out about the Crocs was there's no ankle support, and walking across a rock slide.
Yeah, and you were toting 60 pounds.
0 ankle support and a heavy backpack.
Yeah,
wasn't ideal, but made it work anyway.
So what kind of boots were those?
Those were Danners.
Oh man,
Which
boots. I got some turkey hunting.
those are good boots, but they were somebody else previously. I was gifted them, and they had been sitting in a closet for a while.
Yeah, they done got dried up.
And I think the glue just kind of went bad on them.
That was a bold move, though, Sammy. That was you going with used boots on the first one. That's a pretty bold.
Well, I mean, hiking boots are expensive. So I was like, oh, it's going to save.
Well, you found that out.
It's going to save me several $100s.
Yeah. Well, it didn't.
But,
it did not save you several $100s.
It didn't, but that's all right.
So, all right. Well, to wrap that up, what kind of boots did you go buy?
I bought a pair of Loa Rangers.
Yeah. And did they last?
Yeah, those were great.
Yep.
With them being leather, they took a little bit to break in, and I had to break them in on the trail because we didn't get a long break.
Oh yeah, so you had a first
between the first and second one. So that one was awful blister wise, but the boots were great. I have no complaints about those boots. I'll tell you my favorite place that I saw over the summer, and it was definitely my physical and mental high point of the season, was we worked a trail to a place called Big Sand Lake. It's I don't know if y'all have ever heard of A River Runs Through It. Some of you read the book or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Blodgett Pass, I believe, is mentioned in that. And it's a path between the mountains that's on the border of Idaho and Montana. And we were at the bottom of that path working there, which is where the lake was. But it was 8 miles in, but considering the things I had hiked over and through previously in the season, it was a pretty easy hike. A lot of downhill getting there, which was awesome. But we were with a volunteer group on that hitch, and it was they were called the Whiskey Society, or Whiskey in the Woods is what they deemed themselves. And they were all considered connoisseurs of fine whiskey. And, they all had their drinks out every night. They were a lively group. And you would think that when you're working with people that have a name like that, you're thinking, oh, these people are going to be awful to work with. Because, I'm thinking, they're going to be miserable in the mornings when we wake up
right
early to go to work. And I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. But they were extremely hard workers. And, they were people that were y'all's age and older. most of them were older than
You just called us old, didn't you?
I'm not calling you old. I'm saying that they were much further along in life than I. But I mean, they were. We would just sit around the campfire, crack jokes every night. We got all of our food packed in for the week. We had a designated camp chef. So we had actual sandwiches for lunch, breakfast, pancakes and stuff for breakfast.
Wow.
We had pork loin and blueberry cobbler one night for dinner.
Man.
I mean, I was living life to the fullest that week.
How far?
The only bad thing about that. Do what?
How far into your summer was that?
This was the exact middle. So
well, there you go.
My third one.
Yeah, you needed that.
Yeah, I needed that one.
Mm-hmm.
But they were extremely good workers, very competent, knew what they were doing. They've all been working with our company for years. So they knew how to cross cut and how to sling axe, all that stuff. And we worked really hard during the day, and then we chilled really hard at the end of the day. And some of them brought fly rods, and we fished in the lake, and the lake was absolutely full of gorgeous cutthroat trout.
Is that they stock those with the helicopter or whatever? Is that one of the?
I don't think those were stocked in this lake.
Okay.
But I mean, it didn't matter if you knew anything about fly fishing or not.
Yeah.
That no one ever fishes there, so any fly that hit the water, you were going to catch a fish.
No, that's cool.
Which was awesome.
Yeah.
But
now you're speaking.
But that one was definitely my high point, and I think the biggest tree that I cut over the summer was on that trip. It was probably 40, 42 inches in diameter.
Good.
With a cross cut, that takes
wow.
an hour at least.
And you got to make 2 cuts to get it out of the way.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to cut one end and then cut the other and roll it.
Yeah. By the end of it, how much do you think your pack weighed by the time you got it homed in?
I didn't really understand what ultralight was beforehand, so I didn't have items that were next to nothing in weight. Like my sleeping pad was huge.
Mm-hmm.
I was comfortable, but it was heavy. But I got to the point, like I said, I started cutting breakfast, and I cut the mesh part of my tent. I had just the footprint, which is like the little
the tarp
extra layer on the floor,
mm-hmm.
And the rain fly with my tent poles. Just sleeping, open air, nothing but a little piece of fabric between me and the ground. I probably cut it down. I'd say 55. There wasn't a whole lot of weight that I could cut.
Okay.
55 without tools, of course.
Right. So what was the average temperature while you're out up there? This is summertime, and up there, what was it like?
So at the beginning, it was still late spring up there in the beginning, and during our training week, we got snowed on. So I went to bed with some wet snow falling and woke up with 4 inches on top of my tent.
Wow.
So I think it was 28 that week in the mornings. But of course, as the summer went on, it obviously got warmer, and it would still get to about 45, and then some low 50s at night in the higher elevations. And then it was probably 85 at the high elevations during the day. And then once we would get back to town after our week out, there was a day where it was 102.
Dang.
Which, coming back from 85, 40s in the morning all week, and it's like stepping into a microwave.
Okay. Well, you'd always
with the weather. The weather was pleasant.
We would always say 100 degrees down here is different from 100 degrees up there.
It's extremely different. Everybody, we had some people that were from there that were working with us, and then of course all the crew leaders lived there.
Yeah.
But they were like, "Oh, it's so hot today." I'm like, "You have no idea. There's no water in this air. I can breathe."
Yeah.
The only thing that I got to see while we were working was deer. I saw whitetails and mule deer, and then we saw, I think, 2 elk and some grouse. I never saw anything dangerous, which is kind of unfortunate, but kind of fortunate at the same time.
There are bears out there, I'm assuming. It's got to be, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
there's bears. Where we were working, it's mostly black bears.
Okay.
Grizzly bears weren't too much of a concern. But
what about wolves? I don't know if that's too far away from.
We never saw any, just because they're gonna keep their distance. But I did get to fall asleep one night listening to them.
That's cool.
Which
I don't know if I fell asleep.
That's a sound. Do what?
I don't know if I fell asleep.
Oh, they were way off.
Okay, but
it was very
one thing, but a wolf is a little more of a hard target than a coyote. I feel like I could handle a coyote. Maybe not a pack. I could whoop a coyote 1-on-1, but I don't think I could whoop a wolf 1-on-1.
Wolves are big.
Yeah,
but it's kind of unnerving to be out there and know that you're not at the top of the food chain.
Right.
Like there were places that I would walk past, especially in the Frank Church, that I'm like, there could be a mountain lion 10 feet above my head, and I would never know.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 things out there that'll eat you, not just not even just one.
Yeah, right.
My uncle had a place in Colorado, and there was some different 4-wheeler trails, but on one of the trails there's like about a 15-foot high little bluff, and like every time we went by it, I like had my eyes kind of up, thinking like, dude, a mountain lion could pounce off of there and just knock one of us off this 4-wheeler right now.
It's not a very common thing though.
I know, but it's still like, and the mountain lions, they stalk prey, like they don't just
Yeah, that's what I would tell everybody. Everybody's like, "Oh, I'm scared a mountain lion's gonna get me." I'm like, "Well, you wouldn't know."
right.
You don't have to worry about that because you wouldn't even know what happened. But yeah, on the first hitch when we got flown in, one of the crew leaders actually found a claw from a mountain lion. I guess
that's cool.
It died right next to the trail, but she found a claw.
That's cool.
And then on that same hitch, we saw a lot of wolf tracks, big cat tracks, and then several kills that were probably from the winter, old ones. But
I was going to ask, did you see many people that didn't work with y'all? I mean, was there a lot of people out and about?
The only time we saw anybody was on our Big Sand Lake trip. And I take that back. We did see people on the last hitch because there were hot springs on that trail.
Okay.
So but those are the places that we knew we would probably see some people, because Big Sand Lake is pretty popular over there. And then, of course, who doesn't like hot springs?
Yeah. Well, I guess summertime is not exactly peak hiking season, probably late summer, or I guess maybe some of the early spring or late springtime. But anyway, it is 2 million acres. So
right, it stays light so long up there that honestly, hiking in the summertime isn't really an issue. Like you could go on a hike at 5 p.m. and get back at 8:30 and it'd still be broad daylight.
That's why I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I guess it is at mountain time.
Yeah, the sun in some places the sun didn't set till it wasn't like dark until probably 10:30 at night.
Wow. All right, I gotta ask. This has been on my mind, and I maybe could have prepped you for this question, but just thinking about the term wilderness, and I've been thinking about that a lot since we were gonna, interview you and talk about this. I've been thinking about wilderness and how in the Bible, Jesus went to the wilderness before he started his public ministry, and John the Baptist lived in the wilderness, and David in Psalms, he talks about wilderness as in that's where he finds God and peace, and like the burning bush when Moses saw the burning bush, he was in the wilderness and all. Anyway, it's a common theme that people find God in the wilderness, and I know you already know God and you know Christ and that, but is there you remember any time being close to God out there in that big wide open beauty?
Definitely. There were a lot of times, especially when I could get to like a high point, like top of the mountain high point,
right?
Not mental.
Mm-hmm.
And I could look out and see until like my eyes just couldn't see that far anymore. And it was unnerving how quiet it was. And honestly, there were times like that where all I could think of was, dang, like he put this together, he made this, and here I am taking care of it and preserving it and that kind of thing. But I would say for sure that I definitely got closer to God out there because there were especially towards the end of the season, there were so many points that my body was just so tired, and I was so beat from working so hard all summer that without praying constantly for whether it be for strength, mental fortitude, whatever, that I would have had a lot worse time. There's actually a verse that I recited for myself throughout the summer, especially towards the end. I had it ready, had it written down, but it's Isaiah 40:29. It says, "He gives power to the saint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength." And like I said, after literally climbing mountains all summer, my body was just broken. I felt like I had nothing left in the tank, and there were times where I would literally be pulling the saw with back and forth with somebody and then praying in my head like, Lord, please just I only got 2 more days left. Just help me to get through it. Give me some strength. But
that's awesome.
He definitely played a big part in my summer.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm most jealous about. Not being out there and seeing it, but just getting that chance to be kind of slapped with awe of God's creation. Cause we don't, obviously, cause you're from here, we don't get the privilege of seeing, we got some pretty awesome stuff between deltas and big timber and stuff like that, but we don't get to see that all the time. That's
right.
That's a different kind of beauty for sure.
It's a completely different scale.
Yep.
Size-wise, too. It's just like, the Smokies are cool.
Right.
But the Rockies are just incredible.
That's real mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's real mountains. Well, man, if there's, Will, anything else you want to add? Or I guess I did think about this, Sammy, since you're technically still a college student and you'll be in college at La Tech for, what, 2 years or another 2 years?
It'll be about 2 years, maybe 3, just depending on how things go.
So you're gonna have another summer. You're gonna do it again?
I don't know. I told
Some hesitation.
like it's definitely worth it. I have no regrets doing it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. It probably wouldn't be the same the second time though.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely encourage people to go do something like that once, and then maybe wait a little while before deciding to do it again.
Yeah, maybe you need to find.
I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to going back. I'll always want to go back and visit, but maybe not go back and work.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah. Maybe find you a good local internship to get some experience and money. And,
I'm planning on sticking around here for a little while.
Start your career off pretty good that way. But
yeah,
no, that's awesome, man, and I'm glad we got to talk about it. It was cool keeping up with you while you were out there, and like I said, I'm proud of you for doing it. It's a cool thing that I would really love the chance to get to do, and I know a bunch of people would, but just a cool life experience, and it's something you'll never forget, I would imagine.
Definitely. I had it ready, had it written down, but it's Isaiah 40:29. It says, "He gives power to the saint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength." And like I said, after literally climbing mountains all summer, my body was just broken. I felt like I had nothing left in the tank. And there were times where I would literally be pulling the saw back and forth with somebody, and then praying in my head like, "Lord, please just I only got 2 more days left. Just help me to get through it. Give me some strength." But
that's awesome.
He definitely played a big part in my summer.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm most jealous about. Not being out there and seeing it, but just getting that chance to be kind of slapped with awe of God's creation. Because we don't, obviously, because you're from here, we don't get the privilege of seeing. I mean, we got some pretty awesome stuff between deltas and big timber and stuff like that, but we don't get to see that all the time. That's
right.
That's a different kind of beauty for sure.
It's a completely different scale.
Yep.
Size wise too. I mean, it's just like the Smokies are cool,
right?
But the Rockies are just incredible.
That's real mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's real mountains. Well, man, if there's anything else you want to add, or I guess I did think about this, Sammy, since you're technically still a college student and you'll be in college at La Tech for what, 2 years or another 2 years?
It'll be about 2 years, maybe 3, just depending on how things go.
So you're gonna have another summer. You're gonna do it again?
I don't know. I told
some hesitation.
Like it's definitely worth it. I have no regrets doing it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. It probably wouldn't be the same the second time though.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely encourage people to go do something like that once, and then maybe wait a little while before deciding to do it again.
Yeah, maybe you need to find.
I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to going back. I'll always want to go back and visit, but maybe not go back and work.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah. Maybe find you a good local internship to get some experience and money. And,
I'm planning on sticking around here for a little while.
Start your career off pretty good that way. But
yeah,
no, that's awesome, man, and I'm glad we got to talk about it. It was cool keeping up with you while you were out there, and like I said, I'm proud of you for doing it. It's a cool thing that I would really love the chance to get to do, and I know a bunch of people would, but just a cool life experience, and it's something you'll never forget, I would imagine. Appreciate your time, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much for having me.
Yep. said, you'll be famous in your own world now. You can always turn back to your story on the Southern Steward podcast that's available anywhere you get your podcast.
throw a little plug in there for us.
Yep. All right, man. Well, it's deer season, so we still need to pull to get you and Hunter and Nick and some other folks over here. We put a deer hunt together, hang out a little bit.
I'm ready.
Yep, we'll put it together. This gun season comes in this weekend, so we'll start looking forward to that and see if we can't make something happen.
That sounds good.
All right, bud. Appreciate your time. Be careful. I'll holler at you later.
Absolutely. Thank y'all again.
All right,
See y'all later.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for episode 4. Hope y'all enjoyed it, and if you do, it would help us out if you like and share the podcast, leave a review or something. It all helps us out, get some traction. Again, we appreciate y'all listening, and hope you stay tuned for the next one.
Yep. See you guys next time.